we're live. A little bit of a different show today. We are not doing our full Shotgun Candy show because we have some absence with one of us. I'm just going to bring a couple of people in the room here. Everyone thinks we're not doing this show, which we're not. But so you might be listening live on YouTube or something. There we go. Here's AC and Rocstedi, brother. Here we go. There you are.
Hello.
Gotcha. How's the volume? We didn't do any sound check or anything like that.
Yeah, same. I was worried about that. Am I good?
No, you're good. You're good. Yeah, you're good. Mr. Bombastic, happy birthday, brother. Happy birthday.
Happy birthday, Mr. Bombastic.
We are just going live just to address why we can't do our show tonight. You know, we're gonna postpone this one and do it probably during the week. We haven't really just got to discuss it yet. But look at that. See, we told everyone we're not doing it. So I actually sent an invite out to everyone saying we're not going ahead, and no one drops in. Mr. Bombastic did. So everyone's just aware to move on with their Sunday.
They were like, okay, I'm going to go to the beach or whatever.
Yeah, I might just share with my followers here just to let them know and see.
How old are you today, Mr. Bombastic?
Charlie's
that old? My God.
He's 611 centimeters.
611 feet old.
Yeah, exactly. So I'm just having a couple of beers now because my kid was really fucking pissing me off. So obviously we weren't going to go ahead with this show tonight. And so it's like perfect excuse to spend a bit of time with my wife, you know.
Yeah.
We haven't spent a Sunday together for months, obviously. We've been doing Shotgun Candy. This would have been the 19th episode. So that's 19 weeks on the trot. You know, we don't spend Sunday evenings together, which is cool. But, all right, we have a chance. But my goddamn son was being a proper fucking pain in the ass. And we just never got around to doing it.
Even after the shout out on station then?
Oh, that was like way before dinner. Or it was around dinner time, actually. So he was cool. He was playing with his Lego and shit, but then he's just being a little shithead when it's time for bed. He doesn't want to go to bed and,
of course,
put his head down. You know.
I mean, I'm willing to bet that a young Rocstedi wasn't too obedient either.
Are you kidding me? My dad had me tremoring in my boots. I was such a fucking obedient child. It was unbelievable. Me too. I was an altar boy when I was young.
Really?
I was. Wow. I know.
That's crazy. Isn't that
fucking strange.
Hey, everybody. Good morning. As you trickle in.
Morning, Franky.
Hey, Franky.
So, yeah, we are. Not your standard Shotgun Candy, not happening this week. The King is sick. The King is quite ill. We believe it's COVID. He's not exactly 100% sure. We've said COVID, but it sounds like it might be COVID. But, you know, my morning time, it's 10 p.m. here now. It was probably around 8 a.m. or so this morning when I got a message from the King saying it's he said he's been feeling real terrible, but he'll still be there for the show. And then it was just only maybe 5, 6, 8, 7 hours ago, he turned around and said that he's had a turn for the worse. He's not going to be able to make it. So we're like, all right, we'll just have to postpone.
And I want to let you guys know this is serious shit. When he's not doing this, he takes this pretty seriously. And yeah, it's not a joke. There's no Mr. Nielsen. There's no Macho Man. There's no.
There's no fill-in for tonight. There's no prank here where he's going to pop up and show. Well, obviously we don't start our shows just like this. We thought we'd come and address it to our favorites here.
Definitely, this is how much we care about it too. You know, it affects us when we can't do it. So we wanted to let you know that we couldn't do it either.
Exactly.
But we're doing it somehow. But we're here.
Yeah. Yeah, because we're itchy to create, you know, and I really haven't. I don't think I've been on since the marathon last week, which ended a couple of hours from this time right now, which was fucking awesome. It went so well. I loved every bit of it, man.
What was your favorite part of it? What was the part of the 26 hours that you were like,
you know,
wow?
I've thought about this. The whole thing was just amalgamated into one long ass day for me, and well, literally, it was more than a day. And but it was fun, man, because it was my Saturday night, I think. It was my Saturday night when it started. And I was ready to go. We had the 1 hour warm up. We had Shotgun Candy. Then we just went into it, and it was fun sticking to the schedule. Everyone had a schedule. Did a couple of people had to pull out towards the end of the marathon. We replaced them pretty easily, so that was all. That was all good. It just flowed so nice, man.
I was so worried about like after my stint of the 4 hours of the last 4 hours until like 2 a.m. Say between like 3 a.m. and 5 a.m. I was a little worried about that time frame. Nobody was stepping up. It's a hard time to build.
But the beautiful thing is that we've got these connections around the world. So what's 2 or 3 a.m. for you is, it's 2 or 3 p.m. for me, and it's actually 5 or 6 p.m. Johnny's time over in Sydney. So there's always someone to step up and fill in, which is good. We've got Penny Lane dropping in. Penny Lane, how you doing? So yeah, we're just to recap, we're not having the show tonight or this morning in the US. It's obviously tonight for Penny and myself, but and it's afternoon for Bombastic and Charlie. But just due to here's the king now. He's listening. We're speaking on his behalf, so he's not well. He's obviously able to listen, but yeah, as for holding the show, he's not doing so good. So we just thought we'd just drop in and let everyone know. And if you want to send any messages for the king, he's actually here to listen to him live. So do that. You can still send him messages and
anything you want. You can tell him,
you can call him a pussy for being so weak to step up.
Do you remember episode 4 when you talked about Mark Cuban? You got this one little thing wrong. Just nitpick him. Now's your time. He's not going to get back.
Exactly.
If he ever pissed you off, now's the time.
So I'm just having a couple of brewskis here, man. My Sunday evening, and I'm trying to chill from my son winding me up. God damn, the one time I actually want to be around my wife, he fucks it up. Kick his ass tomorrow. No iPad for a week.
I don't know. So hats off to first of all, happy Father's Day to all the fathers out there. Number one, and happy day to all the women that are married to good fathers. So put your hands together for that, because not everybody has that. So it's hard to find a dad that's that invested and is his dad 365 days a year. So shout out to all the real daddies out there.
Yeah, man. And you know what? I'm thinking that if you got some time, maybe we can go into a little bit of the traditional talks I used to do there on stereo with you, if you're up for it, man. Like, yeah. Obviously I know you. We've known each other for a while, but we've never done a deep dive on AC. You're getting a bit of traction here with Shotgun Candy and your other shows with the Hip Hop Tour and also Visual Radio. So I don't know, man. If you want to go into a little bit, I know you asked me a while back, but these you almost can't plan for these times,
Yeah, of course. And we got so busy, and Shotgun Candy happened so fast and heavy that we had so much on our plate. We just wanted to make that show so good, and our show. So we put so much time into it. Not studying and like sharing, collaborating the actual material. We study and share and collaborate everything but the actual material, and then that's always a surprise, right? That's what makes it fun. But we talk constantly, and I think the key to success, albeit however you measure success, right, is being available for the people that need to talk to you, and being able to run, even if it's a dumb idea. I have 20 of them a day, and Rock's like, meh, or he loves it, or he does, and it's right away. And the same thing with me, the feedback and how you can, is this dumb? Should I keep thinking about this? Because some things you get excited about and some things you don't. And then you talk through it and you realize like why it isn't such a great idea, or why it is. And then you lay everything out. But that's what adults do. That's what, we are in a relationship, for better or for worse, right? So a non-sexual one, I would add. It's been a while.
Which is a shame, might add.
Been 19 weeks. How long does a girl have to wait? But in all seriousness, you don't know what's going to happen, right? When you have that conversation, you're like, let's do this and let's see what happens. I know that you're pretty good at this because I've seen you do that by yourself. And then you hold these cards, and will it all come together? And it was, it's magical, but then it's super time consuming as well, because you think about it all the time. I don't know about you.
Constantly, man. It never fucking ends, right? I'm constantly thinking about what moves to make, how we're going to do it, how we're going to grow it, and that's just been the attitude from the start, and that's why it's got to where it's got right now, and I'm excited to see what the next 12 months hold. But we're lashing out to other places off Fireside to I'm not saying platforms, but rather in real life live situations. So over the weekend, I've spoke to a couple of local places here, which I'd like to speak to Penny Lane about actually, because if it happens, it'd be great. I seem to have generated some interest in a couple of places where we actually do these like live podcast deep dives with people and a live audience, but through Fireside as well. So Fireside's still filming and broadcasting on this platform, but I'm actually live speaking to some people, and we could interact with people online with co-hosts as well. It's just this setup I've got. But if it does go ahead, Penny, I'd like to see if you'd be like my like messenger on those evenings that we do it, where you could actually take the mic to live people to people in the audience that have questions, and actually she's someone who's like my real life friend here that knows me from the past, that I can rely on now, because my other real life friends here that just don't even look in or understand what this world's like. They just have no clue. It would be odd to even ask them, but she's been a dedicated fan for a little while now here, especially for Shotgun Candy. So that'd be great. Look, we've got a message here. We've got a message from the king. So I'm going to play that, AC.
Yes.
Here we go.
Rocstedi, AC, my brothers. I'm glad to see you guys up here doing it without me. I'm just feeling really, really bad, man. I can't describe last time I felt like this. I'll be all right though, and we'll get at it next week. Have a good show, guys. I'll be listening a little bit.
All good, brother. We're not doing Shotgun Candy tonight. We're just letting everyone know why we're not continuing tonight, because you're ill. So that's all good, man. Just rest up. It's no dramas. It's just
Beers
it
and
is
coffee.
what it is.
Beers and coffee in different time zones is what we're calling it.
Yeah.
And it's not a show without you, so it's not really a show. There's no music, there's no pageantry, there's no
cameras.
I'm dressed all in black as if someone has passed. Look like Johnny Cash over here, but we miss you, brother. Yeah, rest up. And there's going to be times, we foresaw that 19 weeks ago. We said, there's going to be one point where we're not going to be able to show up, and then we didn't even have a contingency for that. We didn't even plan for that, because we just showed the fuck up every day, and because we love it. But life happens. People get sick, kids are born, and hospitals happen, and parents happen. There's so many things.
It's been some fucking close calls, right? Even weeks ago, we're talking around April, I think. So my son got COVID on a Sunday. I was like, boys, I can't do the show, and then they were talking about postponing it too. It was probably my afternoon. Keeping in mind that it's 10 p.m. my time when it starts, right? So we've gone to the hospital and went through the process with him. We're there for several hours, and then I'm messaging him in the hospital room, like, oh, maybe he might be checking out soon and all this shit. So we basically, long story short, got home, got him in. I could shower, get ready, and just jump on the show just in time. So that was good. We were able to make it that time. And then I think I got COVID for the week after. Yeah, wasn't it?
Yeah, and talk about constant communication. That wouldn't have happened if we just didn't communicate the way we do. Sorry, it was important. I had a freaking keyboard, but it's important to, I think, in any relationship, a working one or one with your spouse or anybody that you're trying to make it happen with, you need to, thank you. Yes, you need to make it a priority to know that you're there and you're invested in what they are also putting into it, right? So I know it's an old trope. It's like, well, everybody has to put in the same amount of work. We do. But if you can't for some reason, I mean, you have credit. You know what I mean? Things it's okay. And I'm not talking about this. I'm talking about just life in general. I think we take that so seriously sometimes, and we're like, well, I know I do. I'll go to work sick. I'll go to work with my back just broken. I'm old, so
my back.
Spinal. Right,
back
so
is broken.
The back is backiotomy. So I didn't say this, but all week I've been crawling around the floor, and I've been like hunched over, like my back's fucked up. But I'm not going to make it a problem for our podcast. But once you're sick, like physically sick, like Elvis is, there's no question. The only question at that point is what are we going to do? Are we going to proceed and put some Yahoo in your seat that won't get the jokes, that won't be as funny or quick, that I can't feed off of? Or do we just pull the plug, or do we just plant ourselves in the show that we postponed anyway?
we postponed the show, but we're still showing up just to let everyone know. Baby. Hey, welcome to Jason, who's actually architect over on Stereo. He's created here now on Fireside too, so he's going to have some good shows. I could tell I listen to his content on other platforms, so hopefully he brings that over here. How's my mic? Is that loud enough? Is it too hot? I'm not sure.
It's good for me.
All right. So AC, I want to throw it over to you a little bit, man. If you're up for it or not, I don't know, but who wants to hear a little bit about the life of AC? I'm not sure if you guys are interested to me do a bit of a deep dive on AC or not, or if he even wants it for himself.
I was born in 1982. I'm ready. Yeah, absolutely. Yeah, let's we did a little bit on the Sam and Dave podcast. I think it was the first one where actually people asked me about, not immediate things. And it was great because I had to think, and I left that podcast like, wow, I hadn't really been asked questions in a while. And I guess for the most part, just when you do social audio, people just materialize without like a backstory or an origin story, right? They're just like some kind of a voice behind a microphone or just a talking head that is an avatar, right? And you just like take that for granted, but there's a real person back there with a whole world of knowledge, and who knows what that person knows. And we're privy to those people every day. We're lucky enough to know so many people from these apps, some for good, some for bad. But at the end of the day, I mean, I'm a better person for knowing everyone I've ever met on social audio. And I didn't even know this was a thing. And I really just wanted to hone my craft and maybe just be a voice behind an avatar for once without being in the face, and see if my real plan was to see if I was actually funny. If I didn't have to stand in front of someone, was it just mannerisms? Was it the dry humor that when I didn't laugh after my own joke, does that make it more funny, or does the actual joke stand on its own merit? And not only jokes, but amazing conversations, deep dives on Tesla, on futurism and transhumanism, and we've talked about everything. And I've never been able to talk to those things about people that I see face to face. So thank you all is my thing. Thank you all for existing and being a part of my life.
Well, it's definitely my pleasure to have met you, man. And look, let's touch on that for a little bit. Like, I obviously met you on Stereo. It was through Dr. Jen Sanchez, really. She talked about you before. I'd jumped on this fucking crazy ass app called Stereo and thought it was fun, just meeting mainly Americans. There was no Aussies when I joined. Lisa was the next Aussie that I came across. It was probably a couple of months after I joined, and then it went on from there. And met Dr. Jen Sanchez, and she had this little infatuation thing for my accent, being from Australia, because obviously there was no Aussies on there. But she'd said, "Oh, I've got a new number one that she'd prioritized over this number two now, which happened to be this AC character. Who the fuck is AC?" And I had this little thing going with Dr. Jen, right? So it was like, AC is like my nemesis. And then one day I heard you guys talking on this. It was always my Sunday, and you and her would have these fucking awesome long talks, man. I think 5-6 hours. Yeah, and it was just really nice and easy to listen to. And I remember dropping in, trying to troll you a little bit, just trying to test you out, just trying to throw those fucking those Elvis will know exactly what I'm talking about. Just throwing those little punches, those little jabs. And he took it all well. I was like, this guy's all right. No, he's fucking fine. He doesn't bite back. It's the guys that used to bite back with the trolling that you really would go to town with it and stuff. So tell us a little bit about how you first came across Stereo, how long ago it was, and your sort of entry into the market here with social audio.
So it was about 4 days after the app opened up. It was in August. And I remember
right at the start, eh?
It was August, but it was, it opened up August, late, like August 28th. And I remember joining like September 3rd or something like that. And I said, you know what? I know what station, I thought I knew what station head was, and I was wrong because I didn't have enough time to go in there. It's not that I didn't have time. It's that I didn't make enough time to know that I loved it, right? I didn't have any equipment. I didn't have any formal, I guess, the tools that you need to make yourself look and sound professional, right? And but that was good for me because I was always sharpening my tool, right? And that's what I always wanted to do. I wanted to jump in on something on the ground floor. Imagine somebody opening up Instagram, and then you're like, the third day of Instagram, you know. So it was that thing for me. It's like, well, what if this really takes off? It's simple and is kind of like archaic. It kind of looked archaic, right? It seemed like two avatars, but at the same time, it's something we've never seen before. So it was really appealing, and it was really like, okay, well, let's see what we can do with this, right? But for me, it was almost like a mask I can hide behind, where I was always. I don't know if this happens to you, and I know it happens to Elvis because we talked about this, right? When you're the funny guy, or when you're the guy that has, I don't know, historically something to add that may, make the crowd laugh or galvanize people around you, or whatever. I'm trying to not sound like I'm important or anything, right? But this, at the same time, people always look at you. Like after you set that precedent, there isn't something funny that's not said that somebody looks back at you and looks at you like waiting for you to say something like, what do you have to say about it? You're the quick one. You're the funny one. And it's not. I don't always want to wear that mask. So sometimes I just want to see if I can just make a phone call and make that person laugh. That's real comedy. Or being on a panel of like 3 or 4 people and not necessarily talking or not necessarily saying everything in the world and waiting for one thing to stick. Like Paul Votto, kind of like that. Like, shut the hell up. Let it come to you. If people are talking, there's going to be a time where you can put that gem in there. And it's even better than saying a bunch of words, right?
So he's fucking amazing at it. He'll walk up and he'll place the gem down and walk away, and it explodes. And it's just perfect every fucking time.
Yeah, exactly right. If you don't get that, that's your fault, because that was well crafted, and the guy just, it's kind of like that. And I was getting that way, And one night I would be like, all right. So first of all, I would never get the courage to talk, right? And it took me a long time to get the courage to just leave a message. Although it's not because I didn't like the way my voice sounded. It's not that I didn't have anything particularly funny or interesting to say. It's hard to enter a group of people's conversation, even though it's welcomed. They're literally telling you, come do it with us. It's still tough to climb that mountain, because deep down inside, the next thing is also being up there. So, and public speaking has never been an issue for me. Obviously, leading people and kind of having them see my point of view, and persuasion is a part of it too. So I never had that problem, but I wanted to see if I didn't have to be part of a group of a bunch of funny people and just do it by myself. Everybody was like, man, you should be on SNL growing up. Like, you should do this. And I never believed them. And I never had enough confidence in myself to say, okay, you're right. You know what I'm going to do, or what have you, something along those lines. Right. And now in my older age, after I do something like this, I realize, you know what? You can do whatever the hell you want. And as long as you put in the work and eventually it does come with a certain price tag, right? Like eventually, like when you do realize this is something you might want to do a little bit more professionally, or you want people to take you a little bit more seriously, you might have to make a small investment in yourself. And that's where the confidence comes in, right? You have to take a risk. You can never win what you don't put in the middle. And I was scared shitless to join a crew of people that were, number one, friends. And, after a while you become cliquey, and it's our jokes versus your jokes, and who are you, and all of, it reminded me of a high school dynamic. And I always try to like exclude myself from those specific dynamics, just because I felt it as like it was like school. It was like I need to go to school with other comedians and put myself up against what the guy, Peter Griffin and Donald Trump and Jeff Ross and you name it, right? So many funny people. Think about your Rolodex right now. Funny people in stereo, and
there's loads of them, man. I mean, I miss some of them that have come on and left. Obviously, there was like several Donald Trumps. I'm pretty close with the one of them, the one that's the most recent one, who does a fantastic. His impersonation is fantastic. In fact, he's only ever disclosed who he really is, to only me on stereo. He's never told anyone who he is in real life, or he didn't even tell me. Actually, I worked it out, and he didn't realize that just a few weeks ago he was on and he doxed himself accidentally. And I was like, you used your real name. He's like, did I really? I'm like, shit, but nobody picked up on it. But as for the rest of them, you had all these other great comedians that were floating through on stereo, and it was such a fun time back then, and it was really trolly as well. It went from the funny times to the trolly times, and those trolly times were really where we formed our camaraderie with other people. And I knew you at the time, but you've never come across to be one of those people who would get involved in those sort of nasty trolly situations, whereas we kind of welcomed it and we squashed those motherfuckers.
Not in real life, not in. There's so much for me to lose that when you start putting things on a scale, if it outweighs just by a couple stones, what's on the other side? I have so much to lose. I have so much to live for. I have so much to contribute to this world where I started late doing things like this, where I was able to express myself, right? I just worked my ass off my whole life. I was a chef, right? So I have a culinary degree. I have a bachelor's degree in culinary arts. I was in the trenches for about 15 years. And back there, I always knew that I was not where I had to be, you know? And again, once again, life proves itself because someone comes up to you. Fuck, I didn't get anything to drink. Life proves it to you when somebody comes up to you and says, hey, you don't belong here, man. Like, the kind of personality you have, like, you can't be back here in a kitchen. You know, this is made for other types of people that are more like, it's going to prove your point. Assholes need to be chefs. Like, you're working with the lower rung of society. Typically, I'm not saying that as a bad thing, but like, you know, you're talking about like people who end up in the restaurant and hotel business because, you know, it's the only way you can really sustain yourself without a degree or you know, a proper kind of like a placement job, you know. So I mean, that's the number one job for that. A tip job, a hotel job, Miami Beach, those kind of places, right? You can make a bunch of money and not necessarily be skilled at a trade. So most people rely on that, especially like a city like Las Vegas or Miami. So they told me, like, look, this is not for you. For number one, you're friends with all your employees. You know, like, you know what I mean? Like, to a certain extent, I had empathy and compassion, and I heard them out. And if they needed time, or if they needed to cry, or something happened, I cried with them. You know, where in the restaurant business, that's not something you do. You know, you have to be a hard ass. You have to not show any emotion. You have to be cutthroat and willing to pivot on a dime and just fire your whole staff, rehire everybody. That's the way that is. And I was never like that. You know, I'm not going to tell you I'm not a great fucking cook. I'm a great cook. But the other part never fit me. The part that I had to treat people badly or command them in a way that made them feel demeaned or demoralized, it didn't fit that part of my life. So eventually I drifted away from that, and I took the person's advice, and instead of just jumping out and just saying, I'm never cooking again, I slowly took steps that still kept me in the world, but now I wasn't in the kitchen, right? So now immediately upon the last cooking job I had was at the National Hotel in South Beach, and I was the executive sous chef in charge of weddings and banquets. So big corporate events and large weddings, destination weddings. I've been in more weddings than you've been to kangaroo fights. I promise you that, Rocstedi.
I don't know about that.
You've been to thousands of those. But yeah, I mean, I've heard that fucking Jason Derulo song a billion times. If I never hear, what's that song? No more, no more. I cannot wait. I'm yours. Like, please, put me out.
Oh yeah, that's right. I know the one.
Have me walk into a field at 50 paces and just snipe me in the back of the fucking head if I have to hear that fucking song. So, you know, and that was cool because I was a bit far removed from like the kitchen. And, you know, it was almost like working remotely in the back, right? And I just get all my stuff and prep everything, had my own team, and I'd execute it. And then, of course, the assholes would stay in the kitchen. You know, the people who are notorious plate throwers and why isn't this perfect? You know, I think I have too much empathy and compassion for something like that. Yeah, I'm never going to throw a plate at. You know, it's expected too. It's expected for you to be a crazy chef, to have high demands and all that. I think there's ways to get that without having to make people feel like shit. So obviously we clashed. So what I did was I found a cake company, a local cake company that was big enough that provides wedding cakes to local hotels in Miami Beach, all of South Florida, Fort Lauderdale, Pembroke Pines, you name it. This person took a chance on me, the owner of this company, and said, I like your personality. I want you to be like the sales guy where you keep in contact with the hotels and you sell them the cakes that they want for their brides to have. It wasn't necessarily like the most masculine job I've ever had, but it had to happen for me to spread my wings. If it didn't happen, I would be 50 years old with a broken back, flipping a burger somewhere. So thank God for that. And thank God for taking a chance. There we go again, right? Take a chance. If not, again, I envisioned myself just breaking down, my body just breaking down in the back of a line somewhere, having a heart attack over a fryer. I don't think anybody wants that. So after that, I excelled at that, and I was able to then make a jump to actual sales, with no kitchen anything involved. So that was a triumphant day for me because I did.
So what, did you run your own kitchen then?
No, I ran my own kitchen prior to that, but that was I've had restaurants made for me. I've had a restaurant was like a rubble, and they were like, "Okay, chef, where do you want things?" Like, I want my grill there. I want my, everything in its place. So that was wonderful, and it's so full of pageantry and like, it's all about me, right? It's like kind of narcissistic. But again, even that part didn't fit me because I'm not even that like. I love money and I love nice things, but like I don't need to see my name in a marquee in front of a restaurant. That was never my dream. I just saw it as something that I was good at, so let me just go to college for it. And if I put it more,
it feels like there's so many levels to you, man. Like there's a lot of levels, and then knowing you that you worked for Elon Musk, with Tesla, that seems like something that would suit you big time, right? And to hear before, a while back that you were a chef, didn't seem like it was out of place or anything, but definitely what I currently know seems to suit you better. But let's just go. Can we just go back? Like, I want to know a lot from the start of your life a little bit. I don't know that much about your childhood. I don't know much about your family life if you're open to sharing, but
absolutely.
like, kind of, where were you born? You were born in Miami, were you? It sounds like, if I'm guessing, that you did a little bit of traveling around with your family as you're growing up, and it seems like you're cool to live apart from your family. I don't even know if you do live with them. It just feels like that. I'm assuming that at the moment, but give us a bit of a rundown from your childhood.
Sure. Man, I'm getting the Rocstedi podcast treatment. Where's the girl saying the Rocstedi podcast?
I slept with her. She got angry with me because I was married, and now she's gone.
God, no. That was a shotgun wedding. That's what we got.
That was to test to see if anyone's listening. I don't think anyone's listening anymore. Not clapping, not laughing, nothing. Just you and me, buddy.
Curled up in a ball in their bed. Oh, we got to hear about this fucking guy's life. So, I was born in Miami, Florida. My mom was actually, so we're Cuban, yeah? So in 1959, there was Cuba, Havana, Cuba. And in 1959, for those who don't know, there was a major political revolution in Cuba. And most, if not all, of anyone who felt like democracy was the way to go fled to Miami or fled to, surrounding places in Florida, Georgia. There's so many Cubans so many Cubans in Las Vegas. But yeah, so the diaspora ended up most of them in Miami, and were just displaced people that made that place their home, even though their homeland is 90 miles away. So it's like bittersweet to see. It's so close you can see it on a clear day, but I can't touch it. And being born on a small island, I couldn't imagine it. I was born on a peninsula, and it was isolating enough where I thought I was in another country when I would visit the rest of the country. So yeah, it was my point of that was my grandmother was married to a doctor, and everyone was a very prominent.
So that was your grandfather?
So my grandfather was her second marriage, and she had several children with him, and then my grandmother's second marriage was with my grandfather that I never met. So sometimes I refer a little coldly to my grandfathers because I never had one. So it's a little bit. There's never like that with that like infinite puppy love that it's like, oh, my grandpa. I wish to God I had that. I wish to God I could feel the love of someone that is much older and sees you through different eyes like that. I had a taste of a grandmother, but it's a little bit
What does she taste like, AC? You filthy bastard. Yeah, go ahead.
It was like tastes like licking the under part of a walker.
Leather. She tasted like leather, just for the record.
Like chewing on those tennis balls they put on the bottom. They she loved me unconditionally. Obviously, my mom's mom was fantastic. Unfortunately, she passed when I was 11 years old, and I was really the light of her eye, the light of her soul. She had a lot of grandkids, but for some reason, her baby having a baby was a big deal. So my mom was born in 1958, and she was born in New York. She was not born in Cuba. She just missed it, right? People had to move in 1959, but my family was wealthy enough and well off enough where they were traveling since the 40s back and forth to the United States. So it's a little bit different than normal Cubans. They were always, right? So they went back in New York. They had a place in New York. So it was easy to leave to a certain extent. Obviously, you're seeing your music, your culture, your people, stores and food and values all erode away like in a matter of a week. So that's got to be horrendous, right? And then now you're displaced permanently to some place you never thought about being permanently. And my mom was born in New York. My grandfather was a super of a New York building, and she lived in like the Oceanside area. They moved around a bit, but she said her childhood was really good. She had a good time, like a good like New York like 60s and early 70s childhood where everything was so wholesome. And she fast forward a little bit, she never did any drugs. She was like a disco queen, right? But she never did any drugs. She was like, I talked to her friends who were absolute, I mean, just crazy with everything. Imagine ludes and cocaine and shitty weed they used to smoke back then. All of those things. Oh, good morning. Sorry about that, guys. Happened to get. Thank you. Everything's in disarray. I don't know where that is. Where the fuck did I put my phone? So, one second, guys. Sorry about that.
That's okay. Guys, if you want to send any questions for AC, you can do that through my Instagram at all. We're just doing a cruisy chat, and I'm having a couple of beers and just talking to my buddy and really getting to know who he was from his way back when he was eating his grandmother out.
Sorry, I was away from the mic. So anyways, I was eating my grandmother out, and she was
just talking about how you're chewing out your grandmother.
Yeah. So look, we ended up after New York. We ended up in Florida, and that's the long way around to say that. We ended up in Miami, Florida, like every other Cuban, because my grandmother had she was a bit nomadic. She wanted to live here, and then tomorrow she's like, let's move to Tampa. And then they moved to Tampa. And so eventually I trickled down to Miami, between Miami and Tampa. Incidentally, my grandfather, I think we talked about this, my grandfather is buried in Key West. Remember we were talking about? I think it was the pirate one. And I said, like, eventually, well, that's all going to come up, like that's going to be, he's going to be floating somewhere, because it's in like a foot of like dirt, at this point. So, I mean, it's like the worst place to bury someone, I think, like the end of a trail of tiny islands. So, anywho, so yeah, I mean, fast forward to like 1977, Elvis Presley was on the scene. I always remember that because that was the year that Elvis actually died the first time, not from COVID, and he. I remember that was the year they got together, married, and then I came around in '79. And my mom was never, like I said, I don't know if I mentioned this, but my mom was never like a she never did drugs, or all her friends did. She never understood pot. She never understood cocaine. She was always like at these parties and like looking at everyone like, I don't belong here, I hate the way you people look on it. Like, you people look so fucking weird. It never took to her, which is great. And that kind of, I made my mistakes obviously growing up, but I always hark back to her, like not doing those things. Right? I used to be like, you fucking straight edge. You're so straight edge. You think you're better than everybody else. Like, and I used to treat my mom harshly. She did the best that she could at times. So, I mean, I would kind of lash out at her for certain things in our life, but now I see that. But she always set the right example for me too. She always tried her best. She always worked her ass off to make sure I had everything. So, in 1979, I came along and I broke the game, baby. So, a lot of people, I was the baby. All right, I was like the last one. I have an older brother named Joel. He's 8 years older than me, and I have a younger brother that I never met. I never met my younger brother because we're all from separate mothers, right? Same father. And I don't think I've shared this, but it's a hell of a story because my older brother Joel.
You've done a massive skip there. So you've just jumped from your mother was like Australia 180 to you've got two brothers that aren't really your full brothers. So like there's a bit of a story from then till now. Can we kind of fill those gaps in?
Yeah. Well, please line me up because if not, I'm going to go
erratic. Sure. So, all right. So let's try and keep it on track a little bit then. You were born in Miami though, right?
Yeah, Miami, Florida. It's Cedars of Lebanon Hospital in downtown Miami. It's now called the University of Miami Jackson Memorial Hospital.
Right.
That's right.
And so at that time, your parents were together. Were they married? Obviously, your dad now has had a son from a previous woman.
He already had a son, Joel, from a previous woman. And I was born, and my parents were together for about 2 years formally before they got a divorce. My dad did what he wanted. So happy Father's Day, Dad. So my dad did what he wanted, and fucking guy could have done whatever he wanted because he was smart as shit. I mean, deeper voice than me.
Well, the apple doesn't fall far from the tree there, man.
Thank you. But with our choices, obviously, if you choose to live a certain way, you don't see the consequences far down the road. And unfortunately, it's happened this way where the chips fell where he ended up having three boys. The three boys never really had interaction because they were from three different people. I'd never met Louis. Look, I'm going to go right into that again. So I never met my younger brother, Louis, which is my dad's name, and that's my middle name. So imagine so much in common. And
you've never met your younger brother. How old is he now?
I did meet him last July for the first time.
Okay.
He's 8 years younger than me, and I'm 43. So 37, right? No, 35.
Right. You're 43. He's 30. How bad are we at maths? He's like, yeah, exactly.
-8. This is fucked 35. Up. And then, so I have my older brother is 8 years older than me. Mind you, I was an only child until I was 13, and my mother remarried, and I never had a brother.
So stop.
Yep.
Let's go back a bit. Let's go back to what was your childhood like from your earliest memories to through to school. Tell me about that.
Sure. My earliest memories was a bag of money being thrown on a bed. That was my first memory. Was a bag like a paper bag of money that it was brimming over with money that was kind of put together like you would do for a bank, right? And obviously it was the 80s, right? It was the fast 80s in Miami. My father was definitely a part of what you would call, everybody, the whole Cocaine Cowboys. Everybody went crazy when Cocaine Cowboys came out, right? I mean, that was just what life was. That was a documentary. That was for real. That depicted life for a lot of people, a lot of young kids in Miami, Generation X in Miami. After the boomers, right? And we knew that a lot of our parents did whatever they had to do, but also, there's a certain level of narcissism with Cubans that they just believe that they can get away with whatever, and this is the way. They don't have to really do what they. And I'm drawing it's a big brush here, right? Most people are very hardworking and amazing, but there's some people who just want to take the easy way out. There was the whole Colombian, Griselda Blanco movement with a flood.
So your dad was pushing coke, is what you're saying?
Among other things, I'm sure. Yeah, pretty certain of it now, just because you put two and two together. You grow up in Miami, you have to grow up pretty fast, and you have to have your wits about you to live in a city where there's a constant influx of people that are from everywhere. So,
right. So you can I'll just jump in a little bits and pieces just to keep you on that track to keep that hot, right? So, yeah, you have this memory of that going on. Well, money being big wads of cash, not even wads, just a bunch of cash pouring out of a box. I think you said, right?
yeah, brown paper bag.
Right, brown paper bag. And so, what was life like, and the relationship between your parents at the time? Was your dad not around that much, and you had a close relationship with your mum? How was your relationship with your dad when you were young?
So they got a divorce when I was 2 years old, formally. Yeah, I mean, you know, people try to compartmentalize when you're a kid, and you don't find these things out until you're much older. They kind of shield you from things. So yeah, I mean, obviously, my father was in that business, and then life for me, and being a part of that. He disappeared for a while, and I'm sure he had to do certain things. I'm sure maybe he wanted to be home sometimes. Maybe I'll give him the benefit of the doubt, but he just wasn't. And remember, I was very young. I was 2, so I have bits and pieces of that. But my mom told me that I was walking by 10 months, and I was talking, and I was ready to go. So I do remember certain things where I remember being afraid of my father's voice, because I have one a lot like his, and but deeper and more stern. And if he turns it on, or if he just wants to get your attention because you might be fucking up, he does one of these, like, OJ, like one of those things. You're like, whoa, I just shat myself. Did Optimus Prime just tell me to stop? And I remember I remember saying to him, man, I hope I grow up with that voice. I hope I grow up with a voice where people respect me, and just kind of command an audience, where I can just say, hey, like the same thing he did with me. And I was like, man, I want to do that. I know that's not something I can like practice and get. I just hope that that's something that I get too. It, it, it ended up being, where I got my own kind of unique voice. But yeah, it kind of, he could have done whatever he wanted. And that's what I mean by that, was like, he could have been a radio announcer. He could have been a doctor. He was just smart as shit. One of those people who just, if he was born at the wrong place at the wrong time, anywhere else, he would have been a Renaissance man. But sometimes regionally, you're just stuck, and you're there, and you're making the best of it, and time moves forward. You don't realize how fast either. And you turn around, it's been 5-10 years, you're doing the same thing. So my dad was never around a lot when I was young. It was just my mom and I, and we became just best friends. We grew up together. She had me when she was 20. So I remember always just being 20 years younger than my mom, and she was a kid, and I was kind of a kid, and we were figuring it out. And I remember
So when your parents split, you obviously just went off with your mother. Did you get to see your father much at all in between?
Yeah, I was about to get to, like, just a little anecdote about that. I remember another thing, and this is not for anybody to go on. Nobody go on, okay? Promise me. Thank you. Fuck. I remember several times, and that's fine. My father's part of the family is fantastic, and we're totally trying to see each other more and more. But it's just not something that like materialized over my life, because one of the memories that I do have is like, hey, I'm going to Marianne. My mom's name is Marianne. Marianne, I'm going to go pick up Adrian at this time, and we're going to go, I don't know, race some go-karts or whatever he told me he was going to do that day. And, my mom would give me a bath and whatever, and like comb my hair and get me ready. And like, your dad's almost here. Your dad's almost here. And Buddy wouldn't come, So that's detrimental to a child. If you ever promise something to a kid, do it.
So how old were you at that stage when that was happening?
Yeah, he went from like 6 to 10, 6, maybe like 5 to 9, maybe. Because
it was a frequent thing.
It was, and there was always this friction between my parents and my mom's side and my dad's side, just because I don't think that was like a planned thing for me to come along. So it was almost like he already had my older brother. It was just it's another thing, like, damn it, Lewis would just kept it in his pants or whatever. I'm sure that sentiment was said, because nobody wants a love child, your second love child, out of in your second marriage. But that's what they used to call me, right? They were like, you were a love child. Like, their wedding was something that they did immediately because they fell in love with each other, just like head over heels, and it was just, you came, and but I was never planned, right? So I guess that shouldn't matter in the grand scheme of things. But when I remember at the age of 10, we moved to New Jersey, and my mom told me, like, we're going to go live with your dad. We're going to try to reconcile things. And, we packed up everything. We got in our car, and I remember getting on the I-95 right in Miami, Florida, where South Dixie Highway gets onto I-95, and that takes you all the way up, all the way to Maine. It's one road all the way to Maine, the whole Eastern Seaboard. So we were changing our lives, and we were going to go make a better one, right? And I said to my man, with my dad, this is great. We can spend time with him, and like someone who like has my blood and like thinks like me and looks like me and all of those things. They tried their best. They really did. Ultimately, you can't change people and who they are and who they end up being or what kind of goals they have at the time, right? If we have a crystal ball, we can see into the future, and we can say, man, we're going to do this, but I'm not going to do this, so it works out. It's impossible to take out those things from yourself. You can work on it, but it's tough. And if you don't, you end up not following through with this. And look, at the end of that stint, I looked at them as young as I was. I think I was like 12. And I was like, guys, if this is what back together is, I don't want this. I'd rather you guys be apart, because this is miserable. And I think when you hear that from your child, that your child would rather you be apart, and you're doing it for your kid. Like, literally, they were doing it for me. I was like, don't do it for me. If it's for me, imagine how fast I grew up to know that. Where a 12-year-old kid
You
is
also spent the first 10 years of your life learning how to not be around your father too. So when you are around what I'm assuming was arguing and two people not getting along, yeah, right, you just want that calmness back again. You know that you've been able to deal with that before, right?
Right. Yeah. God damn it, Rock! You made me think about some shit. But yeah, I mean, then you start growing a thicker shell, right? And then at age 13, my mom gets remarried to my stepdad, who's fantastic.
All right, hold it there for a sec. Yeah. I want to go back again. I want to go back to what school was like for you as a kid. So your dad left when you were about 2 years old, right?
Yeah.
Is that right?
That's right.
Well, you said that they broke up after 2 years. I'm assuming that around the time you were born, so around 2. And then so you're starting school 5 or 6 years old. What was school like for you when you were there with making friends? How was your confidence levels as a kid? Your concentration levels as well as a kid?
Yeah. Before when I didn't have that strong of a father figure, I was, not that I was introverted, I just I don't know how to approach like situations. I guess some things you just talk about with your dad, how to do this, and this is what you're going to say if like somebody asks you this, or they prepare you for life. My mom did the best she ever could. There's just some things that a man needs to teach his son, right? So yeah, it was just it was tough, and I did well the first like 7 years of school, really well. And I think that it just came natural to me, but then when it started getting harder, and things that you actually have to study for, and you couldn't wing anymore, like the test is not just coloring in the lines, you have to do some math and show your work. I discovered other things at that point. But to not jump ahead, that those first like maybe to like 5th grade, we moved around a lot as well, kind of around Miami. So I went to several different elementary schools, and finally I went to the Ponce de Leon Middle School in Coral Gables, and that's pretty much when we settled in with my stepdad. And I didn't really start getting like the do's and don'ts of men. You can get the condensed version when your dad's dropping you off. See ya. Anyway, be good and don't do this. And that's different than seeing an example of a man doing it day in, day out. So that was necessary, and I thank him. He immediately put me in karate, along with my step brother Alex.
Hold it there, man. Hold it there. You're going straight back to that. I want to float around the childhood a little bit more.
Yeah.
So, okay. So situations you said you didn't know how to approach properly. What about your? You said you did well in the first 7 years of school. Did you mean academically, or just surviving in general, or how easy was it for you to build friendships with people, especially that you were changing from school to school to school?
I wouldn't, and I think that's what kept me doing well in school. Attendance, perfect attendance, and all A's, and no problem with tests and pop quizzes. Always, ready to learn, and well groomed and ready. I'm a young kid at this point, right? That was fine, and I think it probably contributed to me being a good student is the fact that I didn't have those kind of friends that distracted you, or you were just thinking about that all the time, or when's recess, or blah blah blah. I don't know. I always when I was like kindergarten teachers, I was like, I remember feeling safe with them. They were really good. The ones I had were excellent, and even first grade, second grade, just good female and male role models. And I remember having male teachers too. And I used to really like pay attention, because he might say something I need to know extra, and not school wise, yeah,
you're looking for that alpha male guidance through anyone you really could at school, or any sort of male role models that you could find.
Yeah, and that was, I guess subconsciously, right? And that's something I come across now, where I'm like, wow. Then I didn't know. All I knew was, of a husband or a dad was like, he's gonna get mad, man, and he's not gonna, and they're gonna fight, and this is not gonna be cool, and it's gonna be another night or whatever. So that's what your kids think, right? If you guys are parents, from a kid's point of view, that's what they're getting. All they want to do is learn and be with their parents, and yeah, of course we're dicks and we're hyperactive and all that, but all we really want is guidance and structure, right? So people do the best they can, but eventually, you have to go to work. You have to give that your 100%, and you have to trust that the schooling system or the daycare or wherever you're leaving your kid is doing as good a job as you can do. So, hats off to my mom for finding and going to like kindergartens and finding the right one, and not just throwing me anywhere, and that's important too.
Can I ask something real quick as well? Is did you have any pets when you were going through this age, without your dad around?
No, we didn't have any pets. I remember my mom used to tell me about the dog she had before me, and I like, why can't we have one? We never had a pet. My grandmother also was like, perro, okay? Like, we're not having any dogs here. So it was just another. I'm sure I was a handful enough, and then to add something like that. But I think that would have helped a ton. That's a good question. We didn't get one to like my stepdad, so he didn't want to.
Right. And and I find that children going through that loneliness, and changing school to school as well, if they had a pet like a dog or a cat, tend to be super fantastic with animals as they grow up. They really treat those animals like family members, more so sometimes in most cases than people that had more of these things at hand for them, right? So I was just wondering, and I do see that you're good with your dog as well. So I just wondered that if that created some sort of bond with animals more so, because they become your buddies. They become that comfort that you can turn to and lean on, like a sibling almost.
Yeah, I honestly, putting it all on the table, I didn't ride a bike till I was 10. I didn't cross the street by myself till I was like around the same age. I was my grandmother and my mom. They subscribe to the belief system of like, if we can shelter him as much as possible, then he'll become a man. But right now, he doesn't need to. What if a car runs him over? What if What if this happens? What if they take him? You know, and I was very overprotected over.
Did that build fear into you as you're growing up?
I doubt. I was like wondering what were you sheltering me from? Like what exactly is out there? You know, what are cars really
So
going
it
to
created the boogeyman for you because it wouldn't have existed otherwise, besides the fact that they're protecting you from this boogeyman that never really existed.
Exactly. And in sheltering me, they sowed doubt and they sowed, a confidence that never materialized. I think I eventually got that because then I eventually came out of my shell and started realizing what comedy was and like noticing that I had the more people, and I'm not going to jump ahead, I promise, but the more people saw that I was coming out just like my father, who's a fucking super intelligent, super witty guy with the best jokes ever and all that. They realized that, oh my God, he's that kid. He's going to be that kid. And that starts building confidence, but not much later. You don't need people to tell you that who are adults. You need to go out there and have relationships and make people laugh and make people happy. And then you're like, whoa, I like that. I like making people happy and laugh. And that's when you start getting the confidence.
Okay. So now take me back to the part where you were 13 and your mum had met your stepfather and got together with him and then started to influence you or guide you from that point forth.
Yeah. So, yeah, he's a hell of a guy, man. My stepdad was an executive at a advertising agency in Miami. So he would draw these really awesome campaigns, and I always thought he was super smart and funny because he had this cool job where he got to draw stuff and like make it materialize into like all different types of stuff. Right? He had like at that time it was like he had like the Kodak account where all of Kodak South America, he did all the campaigns for them, and Aerolíneas Argentinas, which is like Argentinian Airlines, right? He had really cool things that he was always working on, and he always had a Macintosh computer, and he was just super cool because he had all these like toys and like, I want a Mac. Wow, he has an Apple. What does he do with it? And he had the old school traditional values. He's like the opposite completely. He's all about being a present dad. He's all about family structure. He'd rather be with his family than anybody else. So when I started seeing that, I was like, wow, is that actually how that works?
Sorry, did he have previous kids as well from previous marriage? I think you said before he had other kids.
Yeah, my step brother Alex. He was 8 when I was 13, so we have a 5-year difference.
Right, but he lived with you guys as well.
Yes, he was
okay.
Separated.
So you sort of got this younger brother now, all of a sudden as well.
Right, where I was, and that's really going to tie in later when I tell you when I meet my blood brothers. How weird that was because I went from being an only child to an older sibling to a middle child. So I'm like the only people I know who like went back to being a middle child after being an only child and then the oldest, which is weird. So a little taste of everything, and so obviously you have this like Insta family now, and you're trying to make things work. But he was super cool. He'd always take us to like Orlando and Disney World, and he had a Porsche. He's just super cool fucking alpha dude, running around Miami doing whatever he wanted. He made good money. He lived in Coral Gables, somewhere where I was born in a house in Coral Gables, and then we moved a million different other places. But Coral Gables is one of the more affluent parts of Miami. So it was nice to know that it's a protected, like, beautiful city within Miami. And that's where the University of Miami is, and Coral Gables Senior High, where I went. But yeah, he really set the precedent for like, what a dad should be, what men should do, what you should be thinking about. It's okay to do this as long as you're doing that. It wasn't always just like, stop doing everything. We hate everything you're doing. There's a way to do that. I'm not a parent, but I've been a kid, and you don't always want to think you're doing the wrong thing because that's terrible. So it's not about always doing the wrong thing. It's about like, yeah, hey, you know what? You're allowed to do the wrong thing sometimes. It's life, but you have to do more of the right thing, right? So the balance, and then putting me in karate at that age, where I absolutely excelled. I needed, look at that. I needed that structure. If I didn't, I was craving it so much that when I got to karate, I broke the game. I was like, excelling, like doing all these things that I couldn't wait. I couldn't wait for somebody to tell me what to do, like more. Does that make sense?
At the age of 13.
Yeah, around 14, I believe, like a year after maybe, we they were always going to karate, and they went 3 times a week, Tuesdays, Thursdays, and Saturday mornings. And after a while, they're like, you want to do this? You want to come do it? I was like, hell yeah. And ended up very much excelling there. Ended up, climbing the ranks quickly, and the discipline that I needed was all just there in martial arts. And Sensei was great, Cuban Sensei, if you can imagine, Armando Martinez. But he spoke more Japanese than most Japanese people. So very talented guy, but also a child psychologist, right? So he knew what he was working with, right? I'm sure he got the rundown on the kids before he took them in to teach them, and I'm sure he tailored his karate approach to what you needed to learn and do to come out the other side a good man. So aside from, I'm a huge fan of martial arts because of that, because it's not applicable in every part of your life, but the discipline is, right? And the respect for others, and respecting the dojo, and bowing when you come in places. That instilled in me like a respect for other people's homes. That is one thing I'm like super respectful of other people, and thoughtful about other people's things, because I used to not be. And those are things that either by force, like either through a fight at the end of the night or whatever, you'd figure that out. And then the beauty is that you come out the other side, hugging your other friend after you sparred, or he broke my nose. I have a deviated septum. My friend back kicked me in the face many, many years ago, and it kind of never healed right, but it gives me character.
So how far did you reach in martial arts then, belt-wise?
Brown belt with 3 stripes. I was just about to get black belt, and then I wasn't doing well in high school, because at that point, I don't know if you want to jump into that, but I discovered pot and girls.
Yeah, I do.
Yeah. So doing well. So right around the time that I, stopped kind of doing well in school is when I discovered martial arts, pot, football, and girls. When that started happening, my report card started to slip, and my stepdad, knew that the only way to touch me, because I didn't really care about anything else, was to take away karate, and he spoke to the sensei and said, listen, I don't want you, I know this, the advancement test is coming up. He's gonna kill it. He's been practicing his moves for a long time. He's got that kata down, fucking pat. He's gonna rip it, but you can't advance him, because I told him, he doesn't know anything, but like I can't reward him after we've been punishing him, right? And Sensei was like, yeah, no problem. I totally understand. I do my kata. I don't know anything about this. I do my kata. I get up there. I do it well as I practice, and I get a belt. And my dad was like, after class, he was like, what the fuck, man? I just told you not to advance him. He's messing up in high school. This is what he really cares about. And, he gave him some kind of a like, but he has to, you have to do that, because he just tried to compartmentalize school from karate. And he's like, fuck that. We're all out of here. So he took us all out of there. They had a big falling out. And that was another point of like hurt for me, because you took away the one thing that I really craved every day. And I was getting better at that point. Obviously, most of my trauma comes from a younger age. We didn't even talk about the Santeria part of it and all that, but that's another thing that I saw a lot of, what kids shouldn't see, But
what do you mean shouldn't see?
Like animal sacrifice, and I told you this. Remember?
This is okay. Yeah, no, I forgot that we touched on this on an episode of Shotgun Candy, right? Yeah. Yeah, no, that's the whole fucking thing you missed there.
It's the whole thing. Yeah, well, I wanted to sound as normal as I could for the folks in the audience.
Let's go back to the fucked up times. Let's hear about that.
Wow. So yeah, I just saw things happen. My father was a high priest in Santeria,
Your father or your grandfather? Did you say
my grandfather? My father,
your father
my
was?
grandfather, Cuba. Never met him. He wasn't a part of my life. But my father, when he came over in the '60s from Cuba, they also brought this religion, right, Santeria, where you do worship the Catholic saints, but you also worship like a representation of them as well, like Shango and Owatala and Ogun and all. They're African. They're African representations of Catholic idols, if that makes sense, right? And then a lot of like seashells and things like that in the in like the world, right? Used to make your own like clay pots. You believe that the spirit of your saint lives inside of a pot, and then whatever's in there is like very personal. Nobody ever sees what's in your pot. Um, I think people in the audience, a couple people might know what I'm talking about, but your house is usually just festooned with all these different big, kind of like punch bowls and things like that, and then each one of them represents a saint. Every house that I went to had that. It was, you know, you say hello to people differently, where you cross your arms over your shoulders and you like kiss them, and then kiss the floor. You kiss your hands and kiss the floor. It's a different way to communicate, because it's obviously that person also has saint, right? And they dollars to donuts. My dad probably did it, so he also speaks fluent like African. I don't know what dialect, but he speaks to you in complete paragraphs in some kind of a dialect in African, because you have to do these chants and these rituals in that native tongue. So to be an Italero is like like I said, the high priest. You can also be like almost like a babalao. A babalao is the one that actually does the ritual to make you saint, right? Figures out whose son you are, meaning which of these saints has your back. And then once you figure that out, then you can make yourself devoted to that saint forever, with some rituals where you shave your head, you eat with a spoon for a year, you sit on a mat. You're not allowed to sit with anybody else. It's a little bit cultish, where it's degrading to the new initiate. And it's so clear as day now that it's made there to demoralize you a little bit, to own you, right? Um, However, so being in this life and living in Miami and everybody speaking Spanish, and just everybody kind of washed in their brain with these things that they felt that they had to go through, and then thousands of dollars to do a ritual. And then my dad, it's a business, right? So you just like you go christen your child. I'm sure that costs a monetary value. Same thing if you believe in this, except he's not in a church. You have to find him in his house, and then how much is the ritual, and then what kind of animals do we need, and then okay, we need this particular part, like cologne and like seawater, and there's certain things you have to do with the blood of the animals, and after you sacrifice them, and you have to kind of pour them over those pots we were talking about to let them eat, right, quote unquote. So on top of everything we talked about, there's another layer of like mysticism that that's kind of spread across the children as well, in that regard. So it's even harder, right?
Interesting, man. All right, we'll dive into that a little bit later, I guess.
Yeah.
So you
Well,
had
just
your
give me
karate taken away from you. You're finding girls, found weed, found football. What starts happening from that point forth?
Oh yeah. So Coral Gables Senior High is around the corner from the University of Miami. So by the time I got there, I was already the king of my middle school, right? As far as, I mean, that's something, talk about glazing over. Right when I went to middle school at Ponce de Leon, something happened within me where I was like, oh, I have this thing where I can command people's emotions if I act a certain way, right? I didn't know what acting a certain way. I don't know what comedy is. I don't know what timing is. I don't know anything, right? I've only known my dad, who's super funny, my uncles are along the same vein. And then, I come from a long line of like musicians and people like who are entertainers. I guess that's hereditary because you just started doing it, right? And as soon as you realize you could, when you have that self-awareness, then you start using it. And with your teacher, and by the time I left there, I mean, I had whole assemblies, like pep rallies, just losing it, right? I would dance, I would do whatever it took, right? And then I started really needing that validation over time as well. So it was awesome that I came out of my shell and I had friends and all that. But then you start leaning on like a crutch, like if you aren't that, then what are you? And then that's the dark side of comedy, right? Like, what if I don't want to be funny today? And that's always my thing. It's like, what if I always have to have this mask on, right? Because what if I'm not funny today and I don't make somebody feel good the way they want to feel good in their own personal way? Imagine the imagine the pressure you have to not only be a friend, but also like provide some kind of comic relief or entertainment because you're afraid they won't talk to you anymore. Like, what if I missed a day? So
where do you think you got that sort of mindset for that pressure coming from in your life?
I don't know. It could have been, the lack of presence of my father for extended periods of time, but there's no amount of comedy I could have done back then to keep him around. So I don't think that was it.
Do you think that the comedy, the level of comedy that you expressed to your friends, may have made you feel more accepted, and that feeling of accepted made you feel more part of the community or your peers, that you started to lean on that more and more, so that you couldn't sort of drop that mask because that was keeping you connected because of the lack of your father being around?
Exactly. I mean, I hadn't put the exact connection together with my father, but I will tell you that the mask was being built at that time, and I didn't know that I was like making my own, like, what do you seen the Man in the Iron Mask with Leonardo DiCaprio, like that that mask that he has to live in forever. We were kind of building that mask, and by the time I got to like the later stages of high school and not to mention college, that mask was firmly bolted on my face, and I couldn't, even if I was depressed or going through something or felt like I didn't have to be the jester today, it had to happen. It was almost like a drug, because if I didn't do it, then maybe people will stop liking me for what I really bring to the table. If I don't do that, what do I bring to the table? When you start getting those introspective questions to yourself, that's scary, because that's self-awareness is fucking scary. So when you develop that, you just you kind of feel like I said, what would I do? What would I bring to the table? Who would I be in respect to this people that like me? What if they stop liking me? And then I started putting a label on myself, and then it validated itself. I know a lot of people. I only have a certain amount of friends, but I know thousands of people. And when you act crazy, and when you do funny shit, and when you're just out there for a laugh, and I used to be the guy who fucking, you want me to drink this whole fucking hot sauce right now? I'll do it. I'll take down a 24-ounce bottle of Tabasco right now, just so you can smile at me. And then you start thinking, like, in your older age, I'm like, no wonder I have fucking heartburn. I was taking down, I was doing whatever it took to validate, my friendship with people without even them asking. Like, I would check in with them to make sure that they still liked me and do some crazy shit, just because it was time to do that, not because they're like, hey, are we still friends here? I would go out of my way to do it before anyone.
Do you feel like you might have elements of that still to the day at all, or do you think you've shaken that over time?
1000%, I still have that. Absolutely.
Do you think that might fuel in a positive way your passion for creating?
Yeah, for sure. And if I would have done it earlier, if there was a way to create, or if I was born more in this era, I'm sure I would have been able to express myself in a myriad of different ways. Comedy would have developed a lot earlier. When comedy really happened was in 8th grade. I was going to 9th grade. I was entering high school, and I met this kid named Jason, and he's one of the two guys that I told you about, like, just brilliant writers and just brilliant people. 10 times more brilliant than I am, that's for sure. Like, he is just, he's awesome. Everything he says, he has me in stitches. Everything. He doesn't have to talk. I can just look at him and we start laughing. But that's when it happened. When you start do like a bond with other people that think exactly like you, that's huge. That's huge, especially for a kid. I had never met anybody like that. And yeah, just
well, in hindsight, man, like from creating right now, I'm under this belief for myself personally is that doing this podcast thing, right, speaking to people just like we're speaking. I've probably always been good at speaking with people, but it's not really till around my age of 40 that I really feel like I've had the experience to nail it more, and I'm
Right.
still not complete yet, right? Like another 10 years from now, I'd nail it even more than that. But I think to jump online and speak like we are and how we do, and we do our shows, Shotgun Candy, whatever it is, these interviews that we do, I don't know that I would have been able to go as deeper as connect as much if I was younger, much more than what I am now. So whether it only improves from here on, and I'm at that point where I've got enough under my belt to have those conversations from here on is good. I don't know I would have had the impact 10 years ago, even if the era that we were born in allowed it to be back then compared to now.
Yeah,
But how about
we wouldn't
that
have the
compared
smarts.
for you in your life?
Yeah, it's a great question. Yeah, we wouldn't have had the smarts. I feel exactly the same way. If I wouldn't have lived those certain things that I had to go through, I mean, I wouldn't come up with the questions to know to ask or I think all talent spurs from some kind of a trauma, right? There's very few like unbelievably talented people or someone who wrote a masterpiece that wasn't under some kind of mental duress or some kind of a trauma, right? That they're trying to like work through. So, and of course, that all came like the super dark comedy and the super like you name it. I mean, you think we talk about stuff in Shotgun Candy, guys? Like, me and my buddy Jason, there's no holds barred. I mean, you can only imagine. So, and that really set me free, right? That set me free. I was kind of in a conservative family where, I always maybe thought these things or kind of raunchy stuff, but like actually extrapolating all of it with no limits right now, write it down. Like that was incredible. We would do prank calls, so that really resonated with me when you guys were doing prank calls because that's the way it started. We were obsessed with the Jerky Boys, and I just wanted to do that every day. We bought a voice thing, a recorder for one of those old corded phones, and Jason had his own pretty much wing in his house in Coral Gables, which is his father was a affluent lawyer and all of that. So beautiful home, and that's pretty much where we did our damage. We would call tons of different places and write stuff down, and like it was my first you remember when you told me like you're so organized, AC, with like Apple Pages and all that. The first time I ever touched a computer to write anything for comedy, like a list, was at his house, and we started writing a list of like just things you would never hear anyone say, right? And that was one of the first things we ever wrote, and we finished it, and I was like, holy shit, this is awesome. And then I was addicted. I just write shit for fun, just I have things I've never shown people that are in there about, I've written a space opera basically, I named it. There was fleshed out characters, just on my own, and it was so validating because all my family was like entertainers and singers and actors and people who are like really out there, right? But that's a tangible job. Like there were no writers, there were no people who were comedians per se. They were funny, but nobody had a job as a comedian. Nobody had a podcast. What is that? If you were on a radio show, that just means you're a stand-up comic. Like it's all circular, And in Miami, if you're not like a Cuban, like just like I was in a metal band, right? You don't play metal in Miami. You have to go to Fort Lauderdale. You have to go north to be south. It doesn't make sense. So you have to also know where you are. And I just never thought it was something I could do because I was not there. I was somewhere where I couldn't express myself in that way. When that opened up, it was over. It was over. It was just, I mean, you name it. I was just doing anything I could. But still, I didn't feel like I was good enough to go like get on a stage though. That was my main thing. I was never good enough. 45 people have told me you should be on SNL. You should do something. You should talk to a cat. You should do something, right? The more I was like, okay, 45 people, it's all bullshit. Thank you so much for the nice compliment. I'm sure you say that to all the boys, blah, blah, blah. I didn't realize that was all true to a certain extent. I'm not saying I should be, but like that was all at least going down that path until I was like 35 years old. like 32, maybe 35 years old, where I was like, oh, if I don't do this right now or do something that has to do with it, I'm never going to do it. I'm going to die. Sorry, I didn't, what a wasted life talent. But it's not something it's not a label I put on myself. It was always a label that was given to me. I never was like, hey, Adrian, nice to meet you, Adrian, comic. Never. It was just, I would never have the confidence to say that. I know that George Carlin exists. How the fuck could I call myself a comedian? It's like, he's a god. You can't put yourself in the same vein as God. So that was always me. It's a humble brag. I'd be like, I'd have a good time and make jokes and tear the whole house down with my friends and have a great time. But that's it. I was never allowed to go further. It was never something that I could do. I should go to work, like, for real. If I would have known what could have been, it could have been somewhere else. But say la vie.
So I'm curious to know the relationship from your father after you've met and been raised by your stepfather. You're probably into your 20s around now or so, left school. Where does your father come back into play a little bit?
Yeah. So there was a bit of friction there because I know my father still loved my mother very much. And there was a bit of resentment there, obviously, when she remarried first. And, and I know that's also a reason why probably he didn't come around, which is, it was never my stepdad. My stepdad was like, dude, he's your dad. Have him come over. I'll shake his hand. You can come for dinner. Like, that's what men do, right? And there's a good anecdote coming up here. We have a modern family, we call it. So he, I'm sure he didn't come around as much because of that, and he was afraid to, like, afraid or ashamed, whatever it is, when you just don't want to meet your ex's new person. I get that, but there's kids involved, so you have to make the effort. That didn't happen to a certain extent, and really he didn't start coming back into it until I was like, maybe, I don't know, 17, 18. At that point, I was just before 20. I left for culinary school in Providence, Rhode Island. So after high school, 97, I graduated, and then I just doing different jobs as far as, like, either a waiter, I was a bartender, and then I started taking it a little bit more serious, and then wanted to go to college. But my dad didn't really start materializing himself back in it. Like, I guess maybe another theory I had was, like, maybe he was just afraid of a young kid, and he was just waiting for me to grow up a little bit, to maybe he doesn't know how to
like that.
Yeah, maybe he doesn't know how to relate to a little kid. You can surely make them, but maybe I'll just wait to, like, fuck with them until they get older. Which is valid. But again, it's not like you ever went to therapy.
Yeah, they don't understand that.
Yeah, you never went to therapy to flesh that out. You just, like, assume that.
Sure.
So, so I think that's what happened. And then, just a little anecdote about now. The sad part is that he's got 3 kids, 3 older boys that through no action of his own have come together, right? However, he's getting older, where the point is that I think he's reaching out more and more because he's just seeing it, kind of not. He's not going to see it the way he thought it was going to happen. Just didn't, right? And the minimal effort throughout the years, I think, has caught up with him, and now it's just a race against time. It makes me sad. I'm probably the one that speaks to him the most, just because for me, I can't see people, like, even him. I can't see people, like, hurting or so. So I think it's, he wants to be a part of all this. I don't think he knows how anymore. And we all just turned. I mean, my youngest brother is basically me in the military, right? It's incredible, Rock. It's incredible. I was literally told, like, we were all together for the first time ever here in Las Vegas. And Allie was behind us, and she was looking forward, and she goes, I don't think you realize this shit, dude. You guys walk the same. You have the same shoulder thing. You say the same jokes. Like, you have the same kind of comedy, like, timing. it's incredible, dude. You have the same like skin color. It's uncanny. And it was really weird to meet someone just like you. That's weird. Yeah, it's really weird. It was really weird. I was not prepared to talk about this, so sorry. But
It's
yeah,
okay.
it's yeah.
Take your time, man. It's beautiful to hear that. I mean, just an extension of yourself, right? And when you think that you're going through life almost with as an only child, and you're not. I mean, you knew you had an older brother and a younger brother, but yet to unite like that and hear it from somebody else, something that you weren't witnessing yourself, must be impactful, man.
Well, how about all those years you just like you thought you were alone, and nobody got you, nobody understood you. But
Have you spoken to your brothers about this to find out if they felt the same as well in their own life?
I know my older brother does. You know, he's very successful. He lives in the Florida Keys. He has his own like landscaping company where he just does all the landscaping for all these really rich people. So he does really well for himself. So he really had the resources to also bring us together and be like, hey, Lewis in California and Adrian AC's in Nevada. I'm bringing my son and my wife. His son is now in Taekwondo and does tournaments, and that's the reason he came to Las Vegas, which rang a bell, obviously. And I had never met him either, so that was pretty cool. So I met my nephew Lucas for the first time, and super cool kid, super smart, and he had the resources to be like, let's meet up here and let's do this. And yeah, obviously I live here, so that was no skin off my back, but he really made it happen. He wanted it to happen. He thought it should happen regardless of what other people's impetus was. So even if you're not trying, then we're gonna do it because that's not fair. And also cousins and you know uh, other kids in the family that I was also estranged from for no reason and nothing I ever did. But I think the point here is that a lot of decisions that adults make affect children much more than you could ever imagine, ever. So like
Absolutely.
think them through. You know.
So what stopped you three from meeting up prior to this point last year? I mean, you met your younger brother last year, and sorry, when you met the three of you together was last year
Well, that's the first time all three were together in like one
together. Yeah.
place. My younger brother, my older brother Joel, he was in and out of my life. When we lived in New Jersey, he also kind of lived in New Jersey for a little while, like in the house. So that felt great to be like a little brother. But that was just brief stints. It was never an extended period of time where you can get used to this or learn anything from it or anything like that. Um, he was also at an age where he was, I was 11 and he was 19, so he was about chicks and like let's get fucked up and like I get it, like your 11-year-old brother. So I think I also probably as a child you put aspirations in your head like, okay, it's going to be like this and it's going to be like that. When you hear this may happen, it's just you also set yourself up when you're hurt at a young age, you end up setting yourself up to get hurt later because you think it's always going to be better than it was before, and sometimes it's not. And then that's something that you learn when you're an adult, and then that's what compresses us into these like these zombies walking to work or driving to work every day, right? It's like nothing can hurt me. Life has already destroyed me. Like how how can you hurt me? Like it's just another day, right? Compounding itself. But when you're a kid, you're like, okay, this next time is going to be way better, and it's not. And then you learn what true failure is just by playing the game. Um, when you're older, you realize that you were truly in the game. But yeah, so yeah, my older brother was a part of our lives here and there. His mom was not the best either, where that was a bit toxic, but it ended up working in the end. The reason that he has this landscaping company is because his mom and her new husband, did whatever they did and kind of brought him into work with them. So that's fantastic. It ended up working where he's doing fantastically well. He's also a very driven person, and that's all on him. Him and Lily, his wife, are fantastic, beautiful people, like just beyond. But if you don't have the resources to do that or the impetus to want to have your family together for any reason whatsoever, you can just let it die. There's no reason to like water these plants. They're already dead. You don't have to try to like repot these plants and watch something grow, but he did.
I see we've got a message that's come in from Chuck. I'm going to play it now. I believe it's for Father's Day, so we'll play that. We'll go straight back to the story. Here we go.
Hey, I just want to give a Father's Day shout out to my dad, Chuck Atkins Jr., because I'm the third. He raised me to, teach me everything I know about being a man of character and to treat people with respect and hold yourself with high honor. And without him kind of guiding me through life, I wouldn't be the man that I am today. So shout out to my dad.
Here.
Shout out Chuck Jr. Yeah, well done. And I'm going to vouch for Chuck. He's quite a guy. He been an extremely loyal friend since meeting him last year on Stereo, and just a super stand-up guy with exactly what he said. He's a full character, and in the respect that he's always doing the right thing, thinking things through. He's compassionate and empathetic about other people's feelings, and always doing the right thing. So thank you, Chuck, man. Much love to you, brother. I believe he's listening potentially on YouTube because he's Android user. So
we know some of those. Here, man. Thank you to your dad for raising such a good guy.
Yeah, absolutely. I got to vouch for Chuck. I love the guy to death.
Absolutely.
All right, man. So
I'm sorry, Rock, but like anybody else has a question too. Like it could be a comment. It could be maybe I said something about Santeria that piques your interest. I'm down for it. But yeah, at this point, fuck it, bring it. But I wasn't really expecting to do this, and this is it's helpful. I cracked a beer. So
good. I've had a few, and yeah, just because of the time of night, and I got work tomorrow, I'm going to start to tail it towards the end a little bit. I know there's so much more to go. We can touch on this again, man, if you want. You know, I'd love to actually. And I do know that Jason wanted to come up as a guest. So if Jason, if you still want to pop up and ask a question or something, you can do that too. Also, it doesn't just have to be messages. But I'm not sure if he's still listening there. The architect. Maybe he's not now. I'm not sure. But he asked just not long ago, so he might have either busy at the moment he can't or whatever it is. But if anyone else has any messages for AC, please leave a message through my Instagram and we can take that message. But so far, man, yeah, dude, there's so much to you that I knew there's levels and depth to you. As I always say to people that ask me, hey, what's AC like over on Stereo? I'm like, he's one of the most balanced dudes you'll ever meet on Stereo, that's for sure, because we know how many people have some issues going on over there, and sometimes it's like you've been friends with someone for a long time over there, and then you find out, oh shit, they've got this problem or they've got that problem, which is fine. Everyone's got their own problems, right? But it's almost like I could never pick anything with you, and for what you've been through, like this. I just wouldn't have guessed it. I wouldn't have guessed you had this past and this like kind of like only child loneliness that you went through, and this shattered confidence as a kid that you've grown through martial arts and stuff. I mean, it's just amazing to hear. So thank you for sharing your story, what you've shared so far. I know there's a lot more again. I know everyone can't just tell their whole life in an hour and a half. It's just impossible. But just to get a glimpse into your life has been amazing.
Thank you. Here's a good one, and this will really illustrate what happens when you isolate children. And this is not a knock on I love my family very much, and my mom is amazing. She's my best friend. But I was raised around my mother and my grandmother, right? Didn't have, I mean, other than my uncle who came on the Mariel boat lift in 1980, he also lived in Miami here and there. But again, it was mainly my mom and my grandma. I would hear them talk on the phone so much. I would hear them talk so much. Their friends and everything. I remember one time they fucking died laughing because I had a stomach ache and I came up and I was like, oh God, guys, I have a stomach ache. I think my ovaries are dying. They really hurt. They're like, you don't have fucking ovaries, dude. Like, I just heard them talk about their ovaries all the time. I thought I had them too, you know? So imagine just taking that into account, where my headspace was and how bereft of like just anyone to pull me aside and say, no, this is what you got. You're a young kid. I was young. What are you gonna do other than equate yourself to the people that you hang out with every day?
Sure, man.
You grow up really fast too. So you're like a 35-year-old man in a 7-year-old's body.
Absolutely. We have several messages I've missed on the screen, man. I've missed the screen. We've got Jason asking if he could join a couple of times. I'm sorry, man. I saw the messages through Instagram, not through on the screen here. We've got Truthful Sweet, good catch Rocstedi. I don't know what that was about though. Paul Vado, Cubans are the best Coke dealers. There you go. That's for you. That's for your dad.
We have put your hands
And
together.
Truthful, like they always say, don't judge someone by its cover. That's correct. And we've got a message from Chuck, actual voicemail. Here we go.
Also, a bit of a funny anecdote regarding fatherly advice. When I was 18 and moving out of the house into my first apartment, I remember my dad telling me, he said, son, when you live on your own and there's a lot of things you can buy cheap, you can get, generic brands and cheap stuff for a lot of things, but you never want to go cheap on trash bags and toilet paper. Always get good trash bags, always get good toilet paper. A lot of other things you can go cheap on. And you know what? That was some of the best advice he ever gave me when I was moving out on my own.
How fucking practical is that?
I'm going to add condoms to that list as well because you never know. Because in Thailand, those condoms are pretty shit, and I found that out the hard way. So, bring your own condoms if you're going to bang some hookers in Thailand.
Hey, but your dad is fucking clear as fuck, because that's absolutely right, dude. There's a couple things you need good in this world. I would add a pair of shoes. Don't buy Bobos. If you're gonna buy shoes, buy a good pair of shoes. Your feet deserve it. After working on my feet forever, but that's excellent advice. You're right. He's right. Fucking, you're lucky to have him.
Absolutely. I don't know if you want to add anything to the mix, man. And I know there's so much more to unpack, but we could probably go for at least another hour and a half here, right? On your life.
I have the gist of it on our impromptu. This is your life.
Yeah, that was just on the spot stuff, right?
I'm expecting all my ex-girlfriends to walk into my den here suddenly
with a knife.
I turn to tell him to his face, that motherfucker. Whatever that
was. Here we got a message from. It's through the Shotgun Candy account. I think it's from Daz. Just give me a second to open it up because I haven't got it all hooked up. Here we go. It says, good interview, Rock, and it was nice listening to your story, AC. One thing you said was that people that do amazing things typically go through tough times. Learning how to overcome adversity can be used throughout your life. I think just going to sleep at night knowing you did your best each day is what makes someone successful. I just absolutely agree with you there, Daz. Thanks for that message, man.
I would never wish something these things would happen to anybody else. And trust me, there's people who are going through it way worse than me. This is like, but what I meant by that was like, you never see, I think the only person that writes a song like Happy is Pharrell. I mean, I'm not sure what his situation was, but I would never be, whenever I've written a song, I've never, because I'm happy, come along if you feel, come along if you feel. Like that's not the lyrics I'm writing, right? And I don't think that is the same thing with like any other artist, like a Kurt Cobain, a Chris Cornell. Ask those people if they come from a place of pure joy. Maybe one or two songs when their kids are born, or like when they feel like, but mostly it's a hark back to like something and how you're going to get better from it, or how you've learned from it. At least in the music, like the rock metal experience, right? That's why I love Tool so much, because it's as heavy as they sound, and as it's a beautiful message, right? It's a lot like, we're all of one mind. We're capable of all that's imagined and all conceivable. Don't pigeonhole yourself. Let your light shine through. So it's once you explain those lyrics to people, they're like, oh, that sounds different to me now. He's not talking about murdering puppies. He's talking about the human experience. He's talking about how we all, live in these patterns, and we're humans, we're mammals, and we're animals, and we're taught we're wired to look at patterns in the world, So if you do, and you do put yourself in a place of vulnerability, that's why I think at times drugs might be necessary to make you that vulnerable. Think about it, Rock. If somehow we can give a microdose of DMT to the most heartless people in Congress, for example, the people who withhold money, the people who work for, I don't know, who are bought and paid for, or people who just have a different outlook in life that might be harsher. Imagine microdosing them for just a second so they can meet God with you. Wouldn't that make them softer?
Absolutely, man. I've thought about that numerous times before, and if we can get this medicine to sort of help people in life, man, just particularly the characters that you've mentioned, it would just imagine what the world would be like now. Imagine.
I mean, they would get to step into your shoes and vice versa, and understand that we're all from the same place, that we're capable of all that's imagined and all conceivable under this canopy. Like, we can do anything you want, but it's just, if there's too much division, then they have us, So if we can look past this somehow, embrace everyone for their differences and everything that all the negativity and the positivity, and maybe these people think differently than you do, but if you just move past that and get back to the point where we're like holding hands through this whole fucking ocean of chaos, we have no idea what's going to happen. We're on a rock in the middle of the fucking ocean of space, and this is what we're doing. This is what these silly monkeys have decided to build, right? Like, you you give your brother a club, and what do they do with it? They beat you down with it. You create fire, and what do? You start burning shit down. Is it inevitable? Are we the baddies, Elvis? Are we the baddies? Like, no. Are we just hardwired to do that, to be destructive?
I think sometimes it's hardwired. Yeah, I do. Like, for the open part of me, I'm not racist. I'm open to people and everyone and all sorts of stuff, unless I find that they're a fucking asshole. And if they're an asshole like that dirty scaly back dragon bitch TT or something like that, I can't let that shit go. I cut those motherfuckers out, and they're out of my life, right? And that's it. And there is no coming back. I just want to cut the venomous shit away. I don't want to be around it. So I just want to surround myself with good people. And if those motherfuckers try to creep back in, it's like, that's where it will spark me off, and that's where I will start the fires to burn them away. Get away from me. I don't want to know. And there's something hardwired in me that I can't help with that. I just can't help it.
Don't these talking monkeys know that Eden has enough to go around?
By the way, if you want to buy a t-shirt, TT is a bitch. It's a pretty popular seller. In fact, we're getting that link set up from the marathon. I believe in a couple more days. I've been on their back to say, what the fuck is going on? People want to buy these shirts, and it hasn't happened. So I was told by...
I'm working on my 3 shirts. I'm not going to get mine.
Well, you can do the same thing through this same link, by the way, if you want. It's through. Just speak to Kaylee and Mr. R. They're sorting it out. It's totally out of my hands, and I'm on their case for it. So
yeah, I'm with them. But Truthful Sweet, Jared Legends, and Tracy,
it's coming. Yes,
you're getting them. You're getting them for sure. They might come from Wish.com in 6 months, but they're coming, baby.
All right.
I'm really glad.
I'm going to start to wrap it up because it's approaching my midnight very shortly, and I've got work early in the morning again tomorrow.
I appreciate you winding down.
Any sort of final words you want to spit out to the crowd?
We got into like I didn't know we were gonna do my biography, but if your dad's around, give him a hug, and just, I don't know, just make sure you tell people you love them as often as you can, and if you can, if they're still here, really important. Aside from that, like, I'm really, really lucky to be in a position to have like this platform, as small and as it is, and as tight as it is. But I'd rather start here than anywhere else, and take this somewhere like that I know it's gonna go, because it's too good. Speaking specifically about Shotgun Candy, it's too good for it to not. I hate to toot our own horn, but I've seen podcasts with fancy setups and everybody sitting in a fucking king's chair with a $10,000 mic in their face that don't have the chemistry that we have. So I'm 100% certain that something's going to come of this. But I'd rather start with this foundation of people that are actually real, that I know, than some faceless masses on YouTube, I'm never going to know. So I thank each and every one of you for being here every single day.
Absolutely back that up, man. Yeah, I'd much rather be in a community of our friends like this here. And it's a smaller crowd tonight. We blew off Shotgun Candy, of course, tonight, and I
We
let
told them not
everyone
to
know that, but I didn't let
We
them know
can't.
we're going to jump on online anyway. So
Yeah.
this is good that you guys have showed up and support and listen to the story of AC. Just to say, hey, Elvis, we hope you feel better. That's the reason we didn't continue tonight with that show. But yeah, I mean, you guys are all our friends. We're pretty comfortable just sit here and talk about that. But AC, I want to ask you sort of one or two things as we close out.
Yeah.
Now, like, you know, you're obviously you're super intelligent, and
thank you.
again, you're like, you've got security around you. You've got a good job. You just seem balanced. I mean, to talk to you as a friend, you're wise. With all that wisdom that you've potentially learnt from your experiences in your life, if you had to go back now with the wisdom you've got to speak to your father in those days to give him advice so that he could use that advice for you as a child, what would you say to him?
It's not about you anymore, you know. I guess it depends what time period we were to talk, but it's just not about you. I mean, you already have a son, you know. Now there's another one. And these people depend on you, and you know, when you have boys, especially, you know, nobody talks about a mother figure, right? Mothers are just there, and of course, if you're lucky to have yours, God bless you, and all of that. But some people don't. But father figures are there for a reason, you know. That I didn't want to have to teach myself how to shave. You know what I mean? I didn't want to. There's certain things I shouldn't have done by myself. That it's really important that you are present for, because later on when you try to patch this up, you know, I don't think there's enough flex tape, or what do you call it? Flex seal? What's the stuff they put on the side of the tank? Billy Mays here with Flex Seal or whatever that. There's not enough shit. There's not enough adhesive to mend that together later on, or to try to pull three grown men together. For example, in my experience, there's not enough in the tank to be able to bring three men that have made their lives already. Grown men, one in the military, one a successful entrepreneur, and the other one whatever I do. But everyone's made their life. Now you started from a base point later on that's so much more difficult, other than just being as present as you could when they needed you. Do that.
Okay. I mean, I want to step in and say that I think mothers are also just as important in a whole different flavor to fathers, and some people aren't as fortunate to have both or either of their parents around from when they're growing up. But if you are, then and you've had a good childhood, then good for you. It's a good thing that I feel bad for the kids that don't get that. You know, I feel bad that you didn't have that same experience with your father that you wanted, that you wished for, that you yearned for. You know,
no grandfathers, limited grandmothers. So it was. I looked around and I was like, "Fuck!" Like, did I really get this raw deal or what? Like, I got the most amazing mom ever, but like, there's supposed to be these entourage of people. Like, it takes a village to raise a child, right? The more I heard that, I was like, no, it don't. I mean, it may, but not for some. So, you know, it's important also to have diversity. You know, just like you have any like a child that you shelter, you got to get out there. You got to mix it up. You have to scrape your knee and meet kids and shit like that. So, you know, good thing I was a super extrovert that figured it out. But you know, there's kids out there who are not, who will just recede back into a shell, and the next time you see him is in a trench coat. You know, like, it's not always that extreme, but like, you know what? If you see somebody that's having an issue, or if you see somebody who might be quiet, or maybe it's their first, I know we're all adults now, but if it's their first day at work, say hello. You know, introduce yourself. Like, don't go on, you know, business as usual. Somebody might need to hear hello. How are you? You know, it's super simple, and people don't do it. There's people in my office I haven't even met yet, and I'm ashamed now after 4 years to come up and say, "Hi, AC, nice to meet you." It's disingenuous now, disingenuous.
I beg to differ, man. These are the times when I have those realizations that I'll still do it, and I'll actually mention it. I would say, "Hi, I know it's been 4 years and I feel silly, but it's better late than never. My name's AC, and I'm stupid for not coming up earlier," and then continue the conversation from there. You'd make a heap of new connections and relationships that way, just by mentioning how foolish you felt about even walking up to say it after this amount of time.
Yeah, no question. Yeah, absolutely. And I am becoming that. Here's another thing is the problem is that I know about 2,000 people in my phone, and I couldn't possibly make another friend. So
Sure.
I made
I get it.
so many friends when I came here that I honestly, like my friend Gary, who comes in every once in a while to listen. We made fast friends, and I told him to his face, I was like, I have a lot of friends, man. I'm good. if you're
I feel
gonna
the
be,
same, man. I can barely squeeze any motherfuckers more in my life. It's
but
enough.
but there's some people in the world that that's the plan. They're just gonna skip over your plan completely because you need to know that person. That person's just like you. That person
Sure.
eventually will be your family member, you know. So, and then for those who don't have extended family members, those are the people that end up being your family. So go say
And
hi.
I've got to say that even my real life relationships with my friends has just fallen away because of the focus that I've got on the friendships right here in front of us right now. It's just amazing the people that we've met online here around the world, and these conversations here and these friendships don't stop when the app gets shut off. I mean, there's continued phone calls and messages, and I'm sorry I can't get back to everyone all the time so much as well. Just between that and family and all that stuff, I haven't even got time to see my real life friends. Sorry, guys, if you're listening, which they're not, which they should be. But it's just like, this is my world right now. This is my world, man, and it's so convenient. Like, it's late. I've got to go to bed. I've got to get up early. But hey, as soon as I finish this, within 2 minutes, I could be slipping into bed, listening to the replay, and drift off to sleep. And it's so convenient, and
Yeah.
it's still very real.
It's a part of my life too. Don't you think for a moment I don't at times listen to Shotgun Candy driving in, and then I put my earbuds in as I'm walking in, grab my bag, and I'm still listening to it on the way in, or I'm listening to something live happening. More so that happened on stereo because I there was probably like 4 or 5 shows that I would be interested at any one moment. Now they're just a little bit more honed to the people that we really really like, the ones that like Sam
Sure.
and Dave, and like these people who are really doing it, like my guys with Visual Radio and Kaylee and Freebie on the hip hop show. Like I never thought I'd have this. 3 months ago, I was bitching how I had just become a firesider, like an actual content creator. They've given me this gift, and I haven't done anything with it. I kept saying to you, I was like, this is great. I love Shotgun Candy. It's my favorite thing ever. But I need to like reciprocate the favor to Fireside. Look at me. Look at me having empathy for a fucking company. Just because they gave me the gift of allowing me to express myself. Now I feel like I owe them content. And I did. I was like, you know what? Enough of this. We're gonna make this happen. Worm approached me at the right time. That was great. Kaylee said, "Oh my god, I love what you said with Tekashi 6ix9ine, episode 10 of Shotgun Candy. It was amazing. I know a ton of legal ramifications of hip hop artists and RICO cases." I was like, "Cool. I know about freestyles and raps. Let's talk." And it all works out. You just have to put yourself out there. And for those people who may be like waiting to do a show with someone else, this is really important. I think my friend Ron, who's a coworker of mine, he has a Rodecaster. He has a microphone. He set himself up with the things that you need to do a show, much more than I had when I started. And we were talking on the phone the other day, and he's like, "Can you help me? Can you help me like do this?" In a very humble way, not like. And I said, "Yeah, Ron, send me a list of the things that you want to do, like what you like to talk about, and I will get together with the people in the community and see if there's something we can drum up. Maybe somebody who's compatible with you." Maybe there's an odd couple kind of person that would be just the polar opposite of you that would work, And he's like, "Man, you do that for me?" I'm like, "Of course I would do that for you. No one did that for me, Of course I would do that for you. When I met you, Rock, you did that for me, So that's much later in my life. But I was lucky enough to meet you and Elvis at the right time and make whatever impression that I made to be in this club because it's special. And I would never deny anyone a bit of help if I could. So that my door is always open, and my intelligence is limited when it comes to this. I'm still learning. I'm teaching myself YouTube Studio and Twitch and OBS, so we can hit those airwaves and make good live streams anywhere. So constant learning thing where I'm just getting my feet wet, and I feel like I've wasted so much time that I need to go hard as fuck, because again, we'll be 60, kids will be grown and all that, and we need to be in a different place by then.
Yeah, 100%, man. We've got a message from Truthful Sweet, who's it's a message on the screen. It says, "To be honest, I thought talking on radio was boring, but now I like it. Thank you, the other app, and special thank you to Rocstedi to introduce this app to sexy ass me." Thank you, Truthful, for being here and just for being super supportive. And
her sexy
sorry,
her sexy ass self is here every show. She's great.
every show. I feel you, man, with that offering to help people here, just get going. I do my best with it. I'm on as much as I can be. Since stereo had helped me out so much last year through my own mental health, because of the load I was carrying from just a huge loss through the pandemic, and then with my children, just struggling with their situations, and it was a lot to bear, and I felt really down and a heavy load on my shoulders financially and all sorts of stuff, right? But not to the point of depression, but it was close. And then I found stereo, and I could just open up to strangers, and I could just get drunk and just talk, and whatever it was at the start, it wasn't anything taken seriously, but the laughs that we got out of it was so rewarding. I've never laughed so much in my life as last year. All the laughs put together was more than anything in my whole life. It was so fucking funny. I had the best time, man. I really did. It was the best fucking time of my life. And I'm so thankful to social audio for that. And this is why I've immersed myself into it and taken it so serious. And then obviously I had that heart attack middle of last year, right? And it's the support from everyone was unbelievable online. You know, when I had this fucking heart attack, and was having the heart attack, and Chuck is probably still listening. He was one of them telling me to go to the fucking hospital because I was having this thing for a couple of days, right? And they told me I had the heart attack. I was like, shit. We went back to went into the room, and it was a process then. I was like, whatever the fuck I had to go through. And I rang straight away. I rang my wife and everything at my bed. But when they told me, but when I came back to the room, it was like time to chill and think about that and start to ring your friends. The first people I fucking told was my stereo friends, a group of stereo friends, over my own real life friends. How crazy is that? And then Benny and all that were ringing us up and having a cry with Benny on the phone. It's just like shit. And then Worm was super impacted by this, and I was like, man, the support from this is amazing. And so I couldn't wait to get out of hospital to do a show, to talk and thank these guys. And I did that. That's what I did. So I think I went in on the Wednesday. I came out on the Friday. And then that night I did a show with Tankalicious and discussed about the heart attack and bringing awareness to what to look for the signs, because there's plenty of people sort of around that 40, 35, 45 year mark that do have heart attacks without looking for the signs. So it's like I just feel like I owe so much to social audio and podcasting, and that's when things got serious from that point forth. And this is when the community really started to build. And I just goddamn love you guys. You guys are amazing, and you've helped me stay into this positive state, help support, give me the confidence to do this as well. And it's kept me out the gutter. You know what I mean? It's kept me out my lows out the gutter. And that's why I'm so willing to give back to the community. If someone wants to start, if they want me to help them to do an inaugural show or whatever it might be, I'm there to do it.
Yeah. I mean, I made it very clear to Ron. I was like, I couldn't possibly have a fourth show. I'm fully employed. There's family. I mean, there's all types of responsibilities, right? I'm surprised I've done 3. This whole week after the marathon when we didn't do any. So Tuesday we skipped it because congratulations, Freebie. Talk about a Father's Day. Freebie Fetch, my co-host on the hip hop tour, just became a dad for the second time.
Oh, congratulations, man! That's great. When was that?
Baby Mateo. Put your hands together for him.
Well done, Freebie.
So because of that, we allowed him to not,
But it's quite a load, man. If you compare it to stereo, I was doing shows every night of the week. I mean, every fucking night of the week. I didn't have a day off, and I did that forever. I couldn't fit any more shows. I mean, my time, nighttime, you guys for the daytime. But it was beautiful. Like the kids go to bed, 9 o'clock, I'd hop on. I'd do a show. It was a different one each night of the week.
Right.
And then that's easy. But when you're doing it on a more professional platform like this, and the preparation behind the artwork, the pushing on social media, all that sort of stuff, it's a different ball game. If you can do more than 3 shows a week and you're not being paid full time for this, I'm fucking impressed. I take my hat off to you. I think that's the limit.
I mean, some people are blessed to know enough to talk and bullshit for 2 hours about 3 different things. Luckily, one of our shows is one of the most diverse shows and dynamic shows I've ever seen, which is 3 guys coming together to extrapolate a topic along with our audience. And the other one is a hip hop show that it's ideas I've had in my mind because I've been a hip hop fan forever, and I have friends like Freebie who are extremely articulate and think of things I never think of. And visual radio is just 2 artists that I hang out with, and I ask cool questions like when it's my turn. But I'm lucky to have all of them, and there's a certain level of serendipity. He said, like, because of stereo and all of these things, who's to say that an engineer wouldn't have done a keystroke sooner than another one, and then lobby would have been ready before stereo, and then lobby would have been the one we were all at? Would it have been the same dynamic? Maybe Clubhouse was the one of choice. Yet Clubhouse is stuffy and not my bag. Would we have been? I think about it all the time. What if we wouldn't have met these people? Would we have still done this? Would I have bought all this fucking equipment?
Well, I'll tell you this. Let me cut in there.
Yeah.
Is that obviously we did the marathon last week, and we got asked to jump on a Clubhouse show. It was my Saturday morning, so your Friday evening that just passed, for like a strategic group thing that the bike lady holds. Like it's on every week anyway, and so there's a whole room of, I don't know, there was a bunch of people there that we'd never seen or crossed paths before.
I remember.
So not all of us could make it for the marathon. Whoever could make it made it. There was Elvis, myself. There was Lauren, Dave.
Star-studded representation.
it was a couple of us there anyway.
Fucking crew.
And we were just bullshitting like we do, like we do on the marathon. Just the same old us. We're friends, so we can muck around. We can take the piss. And these people haven't seen this shit before. They're just like, fuck, who are you people? They were jumping on stage going, you guys have got like the best rapport with each other, and I can really see a business model out of this. And they were saying, we're like, hey, we're just fucking a bunch of friends that got together who are content creators, and we have the same like humor and the same sort of mindset. So we became this standout group just from this 1 2-hour podcast the other day. It was just yesterday morning for me. It was Saturday morning. So that was cool to see. And then we got off and we're like, shit, like, not only do we think that we're different and do we feel like we're creative and we can get together, but when we start to display that in front of complete strangers, a group of completely different people that are so let me say, there's
these kind of people are all the time, right? There's got to be people who join and they do a little bit and then they fizzle out because they're like, no, it's not for me. And then
they're listening, right? And I could see, in their profile pictures, they've got like ties on and stuff, and they're all corporate. I'm reading their profiles and stuff, and then when it's time to talk to Dave, I'm like, oh, here's Dave's entry music. I got bitches all on my dick every day. I'm just playing that shit, man, and they're just like, what the fuck?
I got all on my dick every day. Love that fucking song. Big up,
so,
dog. Rest in peace.
It was good, man. It's like, that's just what I don't care that we're in a fucking room with the corporates. This is who we are. You like it, or you can take your tie off and fuck off. I don't care.
How many fucking suits can be in one room anyway?
Dude, they end up joining the party anyway. They join the party and they have a laugh with us, and you notice that they start to swear when they'd never swear in these rooms. And we were saying some pretty fucking gruesome things as well. Like we test the waters. We start off by not doing it that much, and then it increases a little bit. You get away with it, and everyone's on silent on Clubhouse. They mute their mics before they speak and stuff. And we go, whoops, we hope that wasn't over the line. And then they unmute and they're fucking cracking up. They're losing their shit. We're like, yeah, that's right. And that's the way they're people like everyone else.
Of course they are. And as evidenced, okay, fine, I'll use this platform to toot the horn. I'll do it. As evidenced by the fact that earlier this week, I mean, our friends were responsible for 4 of the 5 trending shows on the first 5 on that app. I'm lucky enough to be a part of 3 of them, and one was the marathon everyone was a part of. But I mean, that's a huge feat. And if people didn't like it, or if people found that overly offensive, or if people found that it's something that we shouldn't pursue, or we weren't good at it because we were just pushing it to be some kind of a bastardized Howard Stern that just cusses to hear themselves cuss and just to be that guy, they would have told us to fuck the right off like week two, like after sexual deviance. It would have been like, get the fuck out of here, bro. Get your shit.
What are you guys doing to our platform?
We fucking talking about fucking a pie? Get your like, come on, like you're out of here. So, I mean, several meetings, several interactions with people on this app, we find that, you know, sometimes I worry a bit too much and about, admittedly, right? I'll let you behind the scenes of Shotgun Candy. Sometimes I worry a bit, not only vocally, but like, you know, how far we can push this before we piss off the guy with this, you know, who's on the front splash, the chef with the salt, or, you know, the NFT people. Like, at what point are they going to get mad? And I'm
the opposite of that, man. I'm like, bring it the fuck on.
Sure, I understand, but I also don't want to burn every bridge ever, right? Because life is circular, and who knows? I could be cooking again for all I know, Rock. You know, so I can't just burn that. I think we had a conversation about that, and there's a certain level of I don't give a fuck, because you have to believe in yourself. But I'm always so careful now in my older age, where I'm like, well, what if I have to come back and eat from this bowl again?
Sure, man. But all we're ever asking is just to be yourself and not to be anything more or less than that. So if that's something that you'd say, and it's something that you'd say around your buddies, then just do it.
I don't hold.
It's like like a lot of the shit that we say on these fucking shows, I wouldn't say in front of my parents. So it's like, I know that I wouldn't say it there because there's a time and a place. But the scene that we're in, I totally see this community as, we're a bunch of friends, and I talk the same shit if I was at a party with you right now. I'd say the same fucking dirty joke, and that's the way I'm going to be here, you know? And if it's not me, I'm not going to try and say it. You know?
And I come up and be like, what's up? What the fuck's up with you? It's the same all around. Am I different when we talk? I mean, it's
no different. Like we are both, and Elvis, and we are no different offline to online. And that's the difference that, and I won't go into this situation, but there was some issue that happened a few weeks ago with someone on this platform, and they try to be one way on the platform, and off the platform, completely different person trying to cuss me out, right? But the difference, what I said to this person, is that I'm the same person online and offline as you fucking see, but you're fake online, and this is what you really like offline, and you're a piece of shit.
That's when you run into, if you're not doing a character because you're a method actor, or like you're a character actor where you have to study for a long time to become whatever you're going to play, there's no reason to be somebody else. I mean,
sure.
And it's really easy to say, there's you know, people have going through stuff all the time, but really, there's things we can tweak all the time, but if you're yourself, we can generally figure it out. We're not that different. And
yeah, look, if you're being fake in any way, after all this time, it would have showed, like we've known each other a long time, it would have showed, and to our listeners, it would show, the community would pick up that he speaks like this sometimes, and sometimes he's not, maybe he's on or he's off, but it's not. If it's consistent, it's because that's the way it really is.
Yeah, if I could do that for 19 weeks straight, I'm Daniel Day fucking Lewis. Like, fucking Oscar. But like, look, I am right, and sometimes the only time I think it actually works though, because when I do physically cringe, right? When you guys say something crazy, it works because I'm actually cringing, because it's real, because I'm like, oh God, you know, this is crazy. But at the same time, I turn around and make an abortion joke, because I can't hide who I am either, but I do feel both ways, you know?
Yeah, absolutely, man.
It can be that. Just be as genuine as you can, man. And if they would have a problem with it, I'm sure the people way the fuck above the people who have a problem with it would have told us by now. So from now till then, we're not going to ask permission.
I'm not asking permission.
Yeah, we're not. We never have. However, some people hold back and be like, well, we can't do that because well, maybe that was a fucking $1 million idea that you didn't extrapolate,
They can stay in their safe space and maybe not get anywhere, but I'd definitely like to push the boundaries, man. And it either works or it doesn't. That's it. Either it's accepted and it goes somewhere, or it doesn't and it just wasn't for them or not for me. But AC, man, I'm going to have to wrap it up, bro, just because I've got work. I've got work in the morning early here, and we're into the early hours of the morning for me now. But
I'm going to go see my stepdad and my mom. We're going to spend the day over at their new house. To answer your question, they do live in Las Vegas. They moved here about 3 years ago to be with their kids and their grandkids. And we're going to Grandpa's pool today, and all he wants to do is play with his grandkids and see his boys. So.
Not in that way, ladies and gentlemen. He just wants to have fun with them. So, did you pick up that joke?
Oh, I got it. Yeah, it was.
Good. Yeah. Well, it just wasn't funny because it was your own father.
Incest with a bit of molestation. Yeah, just a saison of molestation.
All right. But I'm going to give the crowd a bit of a shout out. Smaller but nice. It was nice because it was quite intimate here. But we've got Mr. Bombastic, obviously Elvis in the house.
Happy birthday.
Freebie, Daz. We've got Paul Vado. We've got Jason, which is the architect. Mark. We've got Penny Lane, and we've got Charlie, XO, and Truthful Sweet. Thank you for joining us in this show. We'll be back with our normal Shotgun Candy show potentially during the week. We'll just work out a time with Elvis when he's better. So if not, it might just roll straight over to the next weekend, but hopefully we do one during the week and one next weekend.
Yep. And soon we're going to announce the 48-hour Shotgun Candy Marathon where no one sleeps for 2 days straight.
It's supposed to be discussed with me.
A different topic every 2 hours. And then there's going to be
May for joining us too. I don't know if you read you out there, May. She just joined back in. But all right. Good to end it, man. I'm going to close out with this song, but thank you, ladies and gentlemen, for joining us, and we'll see you. I'll see you again shortly for sure.
Have an awesome week.